Greetings and salutations. Thank you for lending an ear to the Voice of the Times for Monday, July 18, 2022. For today's editorial, Retain Rice Tariffication Law despite concerns. The Rice Tariffication Law, or RTL, is again under scrutiny, but the arguments made in its defense reinforce its value. Recently, Finance Secretary Benjamin Diokno provided data showing RTL helped tame inflation, which has been alarming people after rates exceeded forecasts because of external forces, particularly rising fuel prices. In the past, the high price of rice, the staple for Filipinos, was inflationary when quotas were in place that controlled its importation, but RTL has apparently ended that. Referring to that law, Mr. Diokno said in a statement last week, it has a major contribution to our desire to control inflation, so I think it's not smart to go back to the old system. He explained, in January 2019, when inflation was at 4.4%, the contribution of rice to inflation was 0.6 percentage point. By contrast, in January 2020, when the inflation rate was at 3.0%, and with the RTL already in effect, the contribution of rice to inflation dropped to negative 0.8 percentage point. The effects of the RTL continue to be felt. In June 2022, when overall inflation hit 6.1%, the contribution of rice to inflation was only 0.18 percentage point. Also, the Secretary credits RTL for the relatively low and stable rice prices today. On average, rice costs 7 pesos per kilogram less now relative to 2018 when the grain's price had peaked. Meanwhile, 8.2 billion pesos in direct and unconditional cash aid have been given to rice farmers between 2019 and 2021, the statement said. That refers to the safety net in the RTL. Part of the tariffs collected from rice imports is given to rice farmers who now enjoy better access to credit, high-quality seeds, agricultural machinery, and skills training on modern farming technologies thanks to that law. Still, some remain skeptical about RTL, perhaps out of concern for the plight of poor farmers or because they want to enhance the country's food security. As President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. said during the campaign, rice is strategic for the Philippines. Striking a balance. RTL should balance the welfare of consumers with that of rice farmers. Even if that law leans favorably toward consumers, simple remedies are available to policymakers. For example, the share of tariffs going to farmers could be increased. At present, as much as 40% of tariffs charged on imported rice goes to the Rice Competitive Enhancement Fund. The share could be increased to 50%, as was suggested by some earlier, or perhaps even higher. More importantly, policymakers need to address issues hampering rice production. For one, rice lands have become fragmented, arguably because of the unintended consequences of agrarian reform. By subdividing farms into smaller plots so that farmers can own land, rice farming has essentially become backyard operations. In other words, farmers lost and did not benefit from economies of scale. Additionally, the government should accelerate irrigation programs, perhaps funded by its share of the rice tariffs. For now, large tracts of farmlands are rain-fed, which limits the frequency of harvests and makes farming susceptible to drought and other severe weather conditions. Lastly, a farmer's life is tough. Because of that, younger generations prefer other careers, and farming families themselves discourage their children from going into agriculture. As a result, Filipino farmers are aging, and unless that changes, the Philippines will face a critical shortage of farmers in about a decade, according to the former head of the Department of Agriculture. The problems of scale, low productivity, and aging farmers are complex and not easily resolved. while the government tackles those and other issues not mentioned here. Retaining the RTL seems sensible. Concerns for farmers should not result in rice shortages and high prices induced by low domestic production coupled with limited imports. Of course, dependence on imports exposes the country to risks, such as supply chain disruptions seen during the pandemic, and other countries could limit their rice exports to meet their domestic demand. Those are legitimate concerns. As such, the government needs to develop programs that make farming more lucrative and attractive to younger Filipinos. For now, though, improving RTL remains the better option. Scuttling it now or anytime soon could be disastrous. And that's the editorial for Monday, July 18, 2022. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to its digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram and listen to the Voice of the Times.
Our longest trusted English newspaper since 1898. Now available digitally. Computer. Order the Manila Times Digital Edition. Subscribed. Get the Manila Times Digital Edition for less than 2 pesos and 50 centavos per day when you sign up for 1 year. The Manila Times, news source of choice, trusted since 1898.